All right, chat. We are transitioning to our react portion of the stream. We are going to watch something that is the history of Final Fantasy. So if you are in my chat and you've been watching me play Final Fantasy and have no idea what it's about or anything about the game, this is going to be a learning experience for both of us. This is going to be the history of Final Fantasy XIV when it first came out. Hence from the no-clip documentary Final Fantasy XIV 1.0. So I hope you're going to enjoy this with me, and I am going to enjoy learning about the history of Final Fantasy with y'all. So let's get started on it, y'all. Let's do it. No-clip docu is so good. I've been told so many times I have to watch it. Like, this is going to be so great. Oh, God, the music. Man, that's
Square is
so
buried
iconic.
deep into the culture of Japan. Originally a spin-off from Masafumi Miyamoto's father's Powerline construction firm, for over 30 years its games have
I'm sorry. I feel like I've already been blindsided. They were a power company?
helped power the rise of Japanese games development. There are no shortage of games that live under the Square Enix banner, but none as big as Final Fantasy. From our Western perspective, there's an air of mythos around the company. The accepted truth behind the series' title is that it was named Final Fantasy as it was Square's make-or-break game to avoid impending bankruptcy. And even if the real answer has more
I mean, to this day it is, right? Didn't Final Fantasy XIV literally carry Square Enix financially? Like, I thought, like, at least I remember this maybe in passing, but Final Fantasy XIV's revenue that it generated was what allowed Square to stay afloat during the less good era.
to do with creating an acronym that could be pronounced by both Eastern and Western audiences, it's that first story that gets told. That's the legacy of this series. Stories about adventures that get passed from generation
1.0 didn't? Oh, no, not 1.0. Not 1.0. Oh, no. Not at all, not at all. A Realm Reborn, and after that. Don't worry.
to generation,
1.0.
as nearby as the arcades of Akihabara and as far as the playgrounds of Europe. As the Final Fantasy series has moved from numeral to numeral, there have been high points and low, but with each new game comes the promise of a new story, a new myth. The story of what happened with Final Fantasy XIV is one such myth. What we know about it comes from old reviews, archived message board threads, and through conversations with those who were there. The reason for this is that the original version of Final Fantasy XIV doesn't exist anymore. Unlike the vast majority of other old games, there is no way of playing it. It was redacted, painted over. Where once stood a game that threatened to sink the Final Fantasy brand forever, now stands the second most popular.
Oh, my girl Yugiri and Gosetsu. Man, Amanda has been playing through Stormblood, and I'm feeling feelings all over again, chat. I watched her, slight spoilers, I watched the scene with Gosetsu, with the building collapsing on him, and man, God, Stormblood may not be the best expansion, but it still had so many good highlights. Oh,
popular subscription MMO in the world. And as the years pass us, the myth of that original version and its incredible redemption story are at risk of disappearing. How did it all happen? How did the same studio that shipped a broken mess turn it all around in 2 years? Why did they make the decision to keep the old version still alive while secretly working on a brand new game? And how did they manage to make all of this, the redesign and rebirth, part of the game's lore? We knew this was
I feel like Stormblood kind of suffered from the A and B plot with Doma and Alamigo, so it felt like they were just disjointed from each other until the end where everything kind of culminated. But it was kind of like, oh, I guess I'm done here and now I'm gonna go do a different story that I'm basically starting. It's like you were reaching a climax and then you like went back to the beginning and started doing a second book, and then once the second book was close to finishing, both of the climaxes hit. So the ending was pretty great, but I felt like the middle of Stormblood kind of waffled a bit, you know?
The story worth telling, not only for those who were there to see it all go down, but for the millions of you who have never heard about this, who never knew the extraordinary lengths the development team went to save this game. So we did just that. Pack your bags, friends. NoClip is heading to Tokyo.
Well, yeah, Roxy, war's messy. I'm talking about narratively. Wait, shit. Smoking's prohibited on this flight. Chat, I was hitting the stizzy. I guess that means I need to either stop smoking or I guess get off the flight entirely. That's unfortunate. I will not eat this. This is too expensive to eat. It's technically not smoking. What do you put? I guess it's more water vapor than anything, but I mean, come on, it's smoking. Just like Boeing, the plane itself is smoking there, not you. The plane's on fire. My plane's on fire. How about yours? That's the way I like it, and I haven't been bored. Oh wait, sorry. I under no circumstances believe that Boeing would cause any knowing damage to their planes, and I for one renounce anyone saying that Boeing is an evil company. Please don't assassinate me. Haha. Ooh, god damn. Gollum. God damn. I watched every Notebook doc. Ooh. I just start watching more of it then, because already this doc feels so well produced. So I've been recommended this so many times since I started, playing Final Fantasy. Ooh, God, the cinematics. Yasha! How are you doing? Bet you turn down slightly. Oh, Louisoix. That smile.
I've listened/watched this documentary
Damn.
over 10 times at this point. I love it.
I love
Lurking
you.
From my last day at work, Madiga 5, Lurk Madiga 5, Lurk Mad.
Hello and welcome to Shinjuku, Tokyo, home of Godzilla, restaurants full of dancing robots, and Square Enix, one of the
wanna go
most
to Japan
prolific
so
video game
bad.
companies in the world.
For the past few
He's such a
months,
good
I've been
boy.
playing
He is.
catch up with this story, playing the latest version of the
Ominously
game,
floating
talking
row.
to players, and watching community retrospective series like the Speakers Network's fantastic fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV. My goal, to make sure we ask the right questions.
Well, Roxy, I want to do a little bit of both. I want chat to be able to talk to me, and I want to be able to, watch the doc. So if I get something coming, I'll pause it so it doesn't interfere with the doc. But I also, I don't want to take away chat's voice.
When we sat down with the team during our time here in Shinjuku, we're going to talk to everyone from the engineers who worked on the original game to localization leads, community managers, and even the CEO of the company, all to allow them the
By the way, can we
leads,
just talk
community
about how good this man looks? I don't know if I should pause for this, but man, oh man, what a beautiful hairdo. And the stubble. Huh, God.
managers, and even the CEO of the company, all to allow them the opportunity to
Ex-CEO?
tell their
Yeah,
side of
ex-CEO.
this fascinating story.
The fall and rise of Final Fantasy XIV happened in real time in front of millions of people around the world. But we wanted to know about this story from an entirely new perspective, from inside the corporate machine that made it happen, that led to its terrible launch and ultimately its incredible rebirth.
Koji, if I remember correctly, Koji is the lead of the translation team, correct? And he's a big reason why we have such good translations and the puns that were injected into it. Because I think I've either seen some stuff about Koji before, or I've been told about him by y'all. But I remember Koji being the GOAT. Koji's what every lead wishes they were.
Koji Funks. I am the English localization lead for Final Fantasy XIV. And my middle name being Koji, it's not something I gave myself. It's a name my father gave me. My father was stationed in Japan for 2 years in the Navy when he was young. Went back to the States. My mom had me. They wanted to give me a Japanese name. The family was having none of that, so they kind of snuck it in the middle name. But then they always called me Koji. And
Right.
so
Middle names are very important in my family. for the big reason that not only are they usually unique names, but they were used to instill fear. Let me put it to you this way, chat. My name is Madigan, middle name Decker. And whenever I did anything wrong, or whenever there was something that my mom needed to like scold me about, I would hear this. Decker. What is it? So I ended up growing up, what my sister, my brother, and I would oftentimes just say each other's middle names to refer to us. So I was Decker, my sister was Walker, and my brother was Bean. Decker, but I hardly know her. Giggity. You gotta get decked? No. I'm going to deck her. Get it? Come on. But so middle names are, it kind of ended up being like a secondary identity between my siblings and us. Because I could say, hey, Jackson, how are you? But saying, what's up, Bean, feels so much nicer, you know? My parents would use the full name. Oh, yeah. When you're, like, in trouble, it's like Madigan Decker, last name. But when it's just kind of like a sharp, like, hey, stop that, it's like, Decker.
I guess the joke was on the rest of the family. My dad being in the Navy didn't really learn a lot about Japan other than he really liked Japan, but didn't learn any of the language. So I always knew that my name was Japanese, but beyond that, I really didn't know anything about Japan. But there was always that little seed in there. And then when I got into high school, there's a Japanese class, and I like games. Oh,
there was a Japanese class in his high school?
They let me study Japanese.
Oh, I'm jealous.
If I study Japanese, I can
I'm
play all those
jealous.
cool Japanese games that never come out.
Oh, that is literally your
America.
brother's name?
And it kind
Makes
of just
sense.
snowballed from there. When I graduated from high school, I
First
took
name
a
was the
trip
religious
to Japan
part?
for 3 weeks, homestay type of thing, and I fell in love with it. And during that period, I got to visit a lot of schools and a lot of English classes in those schools. And I thought, wow, I know English. I could do this. This will be easy. It wasn't as easy.
Okay, so I've watched a lot of like Abroad in Japan or a Premiere 2, and man, this seems like every white guy who wants to go to Japan is like, yeah, I'll be an English teacher. And then they get there and go, oh God, this is so bad. I hate everything about it. Because they'll do they'll like ship you off to a mountain town that has like no population and you just have to live there. It's, if you want to go to Japan and teach English and that's your way in, then just be prepared that you probably won't be in like, Tokyo or Osaka or any of those places. You'll be in some like mountain town miles away from civilization. Man, it's awesome. He is awesome. Look at that smile.
Easy as I
What a
thought it
good
was going to
boy.
be, but I studied a couple years at a
Rural community. Keo, I'm not at all discounting the need for them. I'm saying that a lot of people have this ideal when they go there and to be prepared for what it will be. Because I feel like a lot of the Western people and their idea of, well, I'll go to Japan and live there and teach English. They're imagining these like, I'm going to be in Tokyo University teaching Tokyo children. But that's not what ends up happening. So 100% it's needed and beautiful work to do. And the people who stick with it are fantastic. It's about setting realistic expectations, And before the jerk teacher in Persona 4.
a university in America.
Or,
then transferred over
the
to
rapey teacher
Japan,
in Persona
started
5.
over 4 years at a university in Japan.
Wow.
Got my teaching license, and yeah.
It's hard work being a teacher.
Yes, I loved it, but it was very draining, and that's why pretty much after you'd go to school 6 in the morning for morning basketball practice, because I was the basketball coach, because as my principal said, hey, you're tall, you're the basketball coach. Then you'd get into classes. I'd have my homeroom class, then
it's
I'd
one
have
of the qualifications.
6 or 7 other classes teaching, then you'd have after school all of a
Chat, do we think Koji can dunk? Can I get a mod? Can I get a mod to do a poll? Do we think Koji can dunk? Yes or no? And I need everyone to answer truthfully. I want everyone to look inside themselves, soul search themselves, and think to themselves, when Koji was teaching basketball, do we think Koji could dunk?
of a sudden it's, oh, there's after school basketball, and then you'd get home and you'd
Koji be
correct.
ballin'.
So I was really, always at school every day. It was
he
very
gives big
draining.
hugs. That's
And
pretty good.
I would go home and I would play
Oh, others are on mobile at
FF11.
work.
It was
True.
how
I guess
was able
Flash,
to
yeah, if you
relax.
could do it.
And being able to go into my little room and turn off the lights and put on my headphones and get into that world of Vana'diel was something that helped me escape from the stress. And then it just happened to be, one day I was online, checking for 11 related information, and I saw that Square Enix was looking for a translator, and it just kind of, wow,
That's
that
like
would be really
serendipitous.
cool.
Wait, you mean I'm gonna have to make my own poll? Oh, what am I? What do we think I am, chat? A streamer that does his own work? Ugh. I have mods for Can. Koji. Dunk.
Koji wasn't alone. Final Fantasy XIV was launched in 2010, but the story of this game starts 8 years earlier with the launch of Final Fantasy XI, Square's first MMO, the early days of online. Many of the team who worked on 14 started on 11. One of those was Kasuga-san, who
God, I
joined the
love Fat
company in
Cat. Little Fat Cat
1999
down
to
there.
build
I
a
love it.
network infrastructure for this fledgling MMO.
自分はネットワークとサーバー担当で入っていて、なので
Chat, do we want me to read the Japanese parts out loud? I probably should, just because a lot of people probably can't just sit there and read the subtitles. So I'm going to read the subtitles out loud so that people can know if they're not looking at the screen what's happening. No, this is not because I think that I can talk better than them. Specifically, I just want to make sure people who aren't staring at the screen can hear.
自分はネットワークとサーバー担当で入っていて、なので一番最初にやっていたのが、当時プレイステーション2で初めて、厳密にはドリームキャストがその前にあるんですけれども、プレイステーションプラットフォームとしてはオンライン要素が入った初めての時期だったので、
I never had this growing up. I didn't even know that the PlayStation 2 had online. I don't know. This is like one of the first times I've heard of it.
プレイステーション2でネットワークを作るために、
Such as
TCP/IP のドライバ
Back
ー
then, we
を
were
作
still
ったり
on
とか、
modems for communication transmissions.
まだ当時モデム通信の時代
One
だ
of
っ
two
たの
people
で、
who don't think that Koji can
PPP
dunk.
通信とか、あ
So
と
PPP
ADSL が
transmissions.
ちょうど普及し始め
ADSL
た
was
時期だ
starting
っ
to
た
get
んで、
implemented too. I wrote
ADSL の
programs
認
for
証として使われた
PPPoE.
PPPoE とかっていうその本当
For
に
the
ネットワーク
authentication
の
of
下の部分、
ADSL,
今
really
だ
the
と
lowest
あんま
part
し
of the
誰も書
network
かないよ
that
う
no
な
one
とこ
would
ろ
write
を
programming
書
for
くっていう
anymore.
担当で
It
入
was
社
what
し
I
て
was
ます。
working on.
まあ
So Final Fantasy XI, it was the first time for Square to do
まあ
an
スクエアエニッ
MMO
ク
on that
スっていうか
scale.
スクエアが初めて、まあ、オンライン
All right, it has been decided overwhelmingly that Koji can in fact dunk 6-1. It's been decided. Our boy Koji is a dunk star. Michael Jordan, watch out.
本当初めてだったんで、
And there are many different things.
いやもう正直いろんなことがありましたよ当時ね。この言っち
Am I allowed to say more?
ゃっていいのかな？言っちゃっていいの？OK なの？あ、いいんだ。
Looks at PR and laughs. But bro's like, hey, am I allowed to talk? Am I allowed to say these like secret things of Square Enix? But for the MMO titles overseas, there was
まずね
Ultima Online,
どういうことがあったかというと、
which I never played,
まああの時は
and other different predecessors in the overseas market.
MMO とかね、海外の例えばウルティマとかそういった先行事例は、
But most of the games, if not all of them, were basically on
まあ
PCs.
基本的に PC ですよね。ところがだからコンシューマー機でや
So
るな
coming
ん
up with the
て、
idea of having an
もう
MMO on a console was treated as something that was
この
almost
極みだと
impossible.
かってね、もうたくさんそういうふうに言われました。まあソニーさんが
As well, this was in the PS2 era with a hard disk, and there were
PS2 のハードディス
so
ク
many different arguments that were going around that.
もう何台出すんだとか、安藤が強い
Their perspective was that it was possible to do, so it was quite the challenge. I feel like the whole concept of Final Fantasy 11 and 14 is it's impossible to do, so we did it. I kind of love it.
そういうの吸ったもんだしていろんなことがありましたんで、まあほとんどまあ不可能だとかでよく言われてましたよ、実際には。成功なんて。
11 was my first MMO. I hadn't played one before. I remember purchasing the PlayStation 2 broadband unit because they were all sold out. I ended up paying double on like some Yahoo auction or something like that.
Damn, Yahoo auction.
Ridiculous, but I had to play it.
Yahoo auction. Man, that is a dated sentence. Whew. And did you message them over AIM? I'm feeling so old, chat.
we got a new internet connection. We were on a regular modem at that time, but because we needed a new modem, we had to upgrade to ISDN 128. But yeah, it was definitely worth it. It was something that was completely new to me, but fascinating. And ever since then, I've been into MMOs.
I still remember Netscape, Thaja. That's a self-report if I've ever seen one. Thaja. Oh, take a lap. Oh, no. Hey, but don't trip. Don't trip and press your life alert. I say that in fear of how old I am.
That was the gateway drug for me, going in from FF11 and then trying, some of the
drug is a good way to refer to an MMO.
World of Warcraft, seeing the differences between the two.
Personally, I think it's very different. I mean, here in Japan really from the Western market because, yeah, it is.
You're older than me. I know, Thaja. I know, and that's why it hurts.
It's for everyone in the globe. I mean, it's very first MMORPG on the console.
It was 11 turn-based?
2. And also, I mean, it was
probably
the
ATB
first ever
based.
cross-platform MMO between PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360. The obvious one is the most Japanese people don't very like to chat in public.
Right.
So, I mean, in the world, there's a lot of characters, but it's very quiet because people are using a tell instead of.
Oh. Interesting. I hadn't considered that. Like culturally, it's probably a much quieter MMO because they all, like he's saying, they all just direct message each other. You don't have where my Warcraft head's at. People in all chat just spamming. Did you say Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker? Wow, I just heard someone say Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker. And then the next person going, I cast Anal Fissure. Baron's chat, baby, let's go.
But if you go to the Western world, game world, I mean, every single one is shouting around. So yeah, that's a huge difference.
While in the West, you have your EverQuests and you had your Ultima Onlines. In Japan, there was none of that. And then, so Final Fantasy XI was really one of the first MMOs in Japan. And so getting to work with basically the pioneers of the Japanese MMO was really exciting. On the other hand, I mean, you could also say that it was possibly kind of a curse in the sense that they were all, doing their own thing. They had their vision of what an MMO should be and what a Japanese MMO should be. And then me, again, not having played an MMO before, getting on this team and thinking, okay, this is an MMO and translating away and working in that project, I kind of, started thinking, okay, this is what an MMO is, this is what an
Interesting. So did they just do no research on outside sources due to their pride or something? That seems interesting.
MMOs. And then that one day I start playing WoW and it's like, oh.
Oh, I got you, Doc. I have seen that one. I did see that, Doc.
Between the
that was
two,
a good one.
And I'm saying okay, what I thought was
the
norm
if I tried to go
in
back
Final
to my
Fantasy
first ever MMO.
The grinding for 20 hours
That's
to go up
question,
one level,
chat. What's your first
and then
MMO?
only to have your level drop when you pull too many crabs and it kills you and you've lost 5 hours work. I thought that was normal, and then you're like, well, that's not normal, is it? The Japanese base game, Final Fantasy XI, had already released, and they were working on the first expansion,
first computer when I was 7.
Rise of the Zalart. I was part of the team that was working.
First was Terra. Isn't Terra the one that was like a real-time combat, if I remember correctly? Like almost like a fighting game, right? I never got into it because I was already into Warcraft, but I remember Terra being like the new kid on the block.
To get the base game and Rise of Zalart all translated before the Japanese Rise of Zalart was finished, so we could all release at the same time.
Right. Did you get it on time?
I got it on time.
Having a level drop,
missed the deadline
high.
yet.
That was like a big staple of original MMOs, right? Like I remember EverQuest has that as a concept too, which is like you die and you lose levels, right? Because I feel like that was something that was kind of baked into the model back then. Old school RuneScape, fist bump.
It's one thing I'm proud of.
Final Fantasy XI was a huge success for Square Enix. It established a concurrent user base of around 250,000 players for years. It was the most profitable Final Fantasy game ever, and at one stage was the 6th most popular game on all of Xbox Live. More than that, it established the Japanese style of MMO, and when the decision was made in 2005 to start work on a sequel, the new MMO was built around things that made 11 successful, focusing
Can we just talk about the fact that the documentary was like, focus on things that made it successful, and then immediately showed a picture of a cat girl? I mean, come on. That had to be intentional. That had to be an intentional gag.
Like most Final Fantasy games do, on beautiful graphics and an interesting battle system. This new game was to be directed and produced by the same duo that shipped 11, series veteran Hiromichi Tanaka
RuneScape?
and Nobuaki Komodo. Final Fantasy XIV was announced for Windows and PlayStation 3 in 2009. Behind the scenes, the development team was struggling to put the pieces of its new world together.
Cat girls are required.
True. Final Fantasy XIV のその最初のバージョンの、自分が見た時の一番大きな問題点、最終的にそれが問題だったと考えているものっていうのは、最初のコンセプトとしてプランナーがスクリプトを書くことによってゲームを作っていこうって、
Of course, it's an advantage of utilizing scripts and that the game
点
designer
としては、プランナーが考えて自分たちで実装するんで、高速な開発ができる。要は、そうじゃないと
can write the script and then is executed quickly.
基本的にはプランナーさんものを考えて
This is above my head. I don't know nothing about game
開
development.
発者にエンジニアに相談
You
し
have
て
to talk with the
どう実装
engineer
する
to
かを
talk
決め
about
てで、
how the game is structured, or you don't have to debate
ゲームデザインをする人はそのどういうパラメ
the
ータをい
different
じりたい
parameters that have to be set if a script is used.
かとか相談しながらエンジニアと話をしてものを作っていかなきゃいけないんですけれども、そこの部分に
So the majority of the game elements were built upon the usage of
関
scripts
して
that
スクリ
kind
プトを
of
導入すると自分で考えて自分で実現することができるようになるっていう発想で、ゲーム実装の大半がスクリプトで組まれてた
automate
ん
the
ですね。
process. Oh, interesting. So I'm going to make an assumption here, and chat, correct me if I'm wrong. So what seems to be being described is that the game designers were using preset packages of code that they can use as a shortcut instead of going through like an actual programming process. And because of that, it was not as optimized as it should have been.
でそのスク
The
リ
user
プト
interface was affected by
UI
this
の
as
問題もそう
well.
なんです
when
け
those
れど
scripts
も
are
ゲーム
running.
も UI も基本的にはスクリプトで書かれていてでスクリプトを動かすエンジン側がかなり負荷が高いっていうか
Uses a lot of
CPU
CPU
をたくさん使わないと
resources.
動かない状態になっているんで、
Ooh,
ちょっ
ooh.
とした何か
The usage is extremely high to just run these different scripts. Scripts are programmed level macros. Okay, so it's kind of like the game is it's like it's trying to generate stuff from scratch every time. It seems like because each time you do an action, it's like starting over new.
何かをするだけでもゲーム内で少し何かをするだけでも
Since your Final Fantasy is my
非
first
常に
long lasting
CPU
MMO,
リソ
that's
ース
fair,
を
right?
使うことになっていて、すぐに
Forum
サーバーが
Online.
回るサイ
Neo.
クルが遅くなっていくっていうことが問題として発生していました。
I missed that. I'm sorry. So we tried to execute something in game. It led to the service
すぐ
being
に
slowed down
サーバーが回るサイクルが遅くなっていくっていうことが
because
問
it's
題
trying
と
to
して発生
execute
してい
these different scripts.
で結果としてその
And so whatever we
サー
tried
バー
to
ででき
do
るこ
would
と
lead to the slowdown of
あ
servers.
とゲームとしてサーバーで実現できるところは少ないですし
And then the load that was on those servers was just too heavy. So scripts are pretty much blueprints. It usually tells the game how an action is supposed to work or how a set piece can be interacted with. So it's just running multiple scripts at the same time, overwriting each other, and therefore causing the game to be a little bit laggy.
何かしようとすると負荷が上がっちゃうんで、じゃあそれを回避する
We just not do anything robust or rich in terms of in-game
た
depiction.
めにどうしようとかっていうことで、結果的にそのゲーム内容としてリッチなものが実現できなくなっているってことが起きてましたね。で、
And interface-wise, a lot of it was being executed via
UI も
script.
スクリプトで組まれていたので、なんかちょっと処理するだけでも
So those were some of the
す
problems
ご
that
い
we
時
were
間がかか
facing.
るっていうような問題が発生していました。
Like I mentioned before, again, localization being in a position where we get to see all the parts come together first. We were some of the first to realize that, Houston, we have a problem. That type of situation. I mean, you had the battle team. They're like, yes, we have this great battle system, with stamina and these things that you can do. And then you had the story team. That, yes, we have this story. Oh, hey, we have these guild leaves and all of these parts. And everyone was really, really proud of their parts. Look at this grass.
Man, oh, the second the word pride is mentioned, I'm like, oh no, I see where this is going. Oh, so there's all these different teams creating the best possible thing they can create, each of them unable to recognize that they can't all fit together well. because they're all so independently developed and none of them willing to budge because they've created some. Oh, separate teams. That's not good.
It's so beautiful. Look at this barrel. It's the most beautiful barrel ever to be, represented in graphical form.
It's got as many polygons as the character.
Yes.
Oh.
And all of those parts.
I'm not sure if you heard that, chat. There were as many polygons in the barrels as there were in the characters. Imagine trying to run that in a game where you're passing by 6, 7 barrels and it has more polygons in it. And while this is happening, you're all running these individual script packages that are, oh no, this is a recipe for disaster.
All of these teams, again, very, very proud of their work. I mean, the team was, put together some of the best minds in Square Enix. You had people that were,
I think they had so many scripts were used probably overloading the servers.
Lead their own projects. Were all.
Oh, Flash, you bring up such a good point. Imagine trying to run this in 2010.
Come together, and it became a lot of just tiny little groups making something that was really great. But once you put it together, it was my favorite viewer, and no one really knew that, except for localization and probably QA as well. And we're like, okay, we need to do something. But by then, it was one of those. It's kind of too late to do anything. But for us, we would be looking at the text, and some of it, it wouldn't make sense, or it would just.
Wait. I know that character. That's Philomene, right? Is it the same one or is this a different one? That's my brain. Mother to the antecedent, whose name is. Why can I remember her name? Did the surgery take my faculties away? Did I lose my ability to remember things? Minfilia. I remember her name. It came to me. Minfilia. Oh. That's Minfilia's mom? Okay. So I'm correct then. I'm correct. It's the same Philomene. All right. Exciting things have happened today. Well, do tell, Doc.
For us, we would be looking at the text, and some of it, it wouldn't make sense, or it would just be very bland, and thinking, if there's any way to make this game better, what can we do? It's like, well, I can take this text and maybe add some more stuff into it, add some more flavor to it, and maybe that will
a lot of 1.0 carryover
distract people from the fact that the battle.
Yeah, because it's not an erasure. Because that's like the coolest thing about the A Realm Reborn is that it's not an erasure of the story. It's like a culmination of the story to start a new one. That's why it's so cool. Hildebrand was 1.0 stuff, for example. Hildebrand's pre is, wow, I didn't know Hildebrand was on 1.0. That's kind of cool.
It's not that fun.
At a fundamental level, the piecemeal design of the game was causing problems. Graphics were inconsistent, while many elements of the world were copy and pasted ad nauseum. Some environmental objects had as many polygons and shaders as a character model. The battle system was just...
That means you can relax with us, Mystic.
Environmental objects had as many polygons and shaders as a character model. The battle system was just confusing. The game didn't have elements fundamental to most modern MMOs, things like jumping, auto attack, and the ability to interact with the map using a mouse. It had a system that nerfed hardcore players to make sure they didn't level up too fast. The UI was confusing. Crafting was incredibly complex, and
Reborn is a sequel? True, Michael. It's a sequel, not a remake. That's the best part about it. It's a Realm Reborn, not a Realm Remade. And that's the coolest part about it.
Took forever, and simply there just wasn't enough content. The closed beta wasn't going well. They needed more time to fix these problems, so the open beta was pushed back to within a month before launch. The team knew there were problems, and they were getting frustrated.
The whole point of an MMO is to sink your time into it, It's built to be a world you can sink your teeth into and devote your time to. That's what the point of an MMO is. And to institute a system that it stops you from playing well is like, hey, you're playing too much and too well, so we're gonna nerf you. That's annoying. Oh, that was because there wasn't enough content. I think they bring it up eventually here as well. Okay. even if they're doing it as a solution to that problem, it was not a good solution, nor an elegant one.
で、今まで話していた
The tasks just discussed were done during the January 2010 to
仕
the
事っていう
actual
のは大体
release
その
date of August.
2010年の1月から、実際にリリースされる 8月ぐらいまでの間にやっていたことで、で、ゲームが本当に良くないっていうのがこう
When we took notice of the game not being good was ultimately when the beta started. Oh, that's not good. I feel like there should be an internal. I mean, I'm talking to a studio years and years in the past, obviously, but my thought process is you got to have an internal beta before you do an external one. Like, why announce a beta for a game that you haven't even internally beta?
みんなに認識されて自覚されていくっていうのは結局ベータが始まって製品版が始まってっていう。
Then when we went to the beta phase, and then more people were
8月9月
starting to
10月ぐら
notice
い
that they
の
were
期間
having
に
a
起
problem
きたこ
here.
と
In actuality, the team's feeling was that before the release, before the
です
beta
ね。で、
started,
実際にはこうチーム内の意識としてもリリース
people were
前
questioning whether or not we should even release the game. Oh, pretty sure the internal beta is just called an alpha. Ah. That makes sense. That makes so much sense, Kyo. Yeah, it is just called an alpha. True. But I mean, if you're, I'm saying that once you are ready for beta stage, play the stage that the public is going to play enough to be like, okay, this is what we want to release as like, I mean, it's kind of like a demo at that point. Like, I know beta has become such a crazy thing nowadays, like beta, early access, but in reality, what it is a demo. You're demoing your game and using the feedback from the demo to make it better. And if you're going to release a essential demo of your game to your audience, you got to make sure internally that it's up to snuff, you know? Beta is when people not the dev team are testing it. True. Very true.
そのベータが始まる前から本当にこれを
What is the quality to release it to the world?
リリースしていいものかどうかっていう議論はある程度その
Of course not officially, but amongst developers.
チーム全体でオフィシャルであったわけではないですけれども、開発者の中ではやはりその
taking notice of it and delivering about it. Oof.
世に出していいクオリティかどうかっていうところは議論がありました。
When 1.0 was getting made, was the mentality that, oh, we're not like, that's like their thing and we have our very own successful thing over here, we're going to just make another one of those?
Right, and that's really what it felt like, is that we're going to continue doing what we did because it succeeded before, why wouldn't it succeed again? And
Hubris.
Seeing that direction, them taking that direction, and knowing that, having worked on 11, that yes, they were very successful, seeing the success that they had with Final Fantasy XI, seeing these great creators, creating something that was, revolutionary. But then on the other hand, knowing that what they were doing was, but maybe that worked 6 or 7 years ago, but a lot of things have changed since then. And I think there was even one guy on the localization team that got to that point where he just got so frustrated that he just wrote this scathing mail and sent it out to the whole team.
Throw at everyone? No. That's like career suicide, writing an at everyone to the whole company, scathing email. Oh no. That must have felt cathartic in the moment, but damn, that's a power move. Back in the day, betas weren't open. You had to apply to be, interesting. That's how you got into beta. It's completely different these days. I didn't know that. I never did beta testing for any games back in the day. So you had to do an application for it. Oh. Well, that reframes my thought process on it. Thank you, Roxy.
Before telling anyone else on localization he was going to write it, and then we all get it at the same time.
Everyone walk out the office, flick a cigar at the door as you leave. An inexplicable explosion happens behind you.
We're reading, it's like, wow, this is really terrible. I hope he doesn't, he sent it to the whole team. Because he just got really frustrated, because to him, they were being very stubborn. They weren't, they hadn't moved on. whereas the rest of the world had moved on and adapted, with the release of WoW and what they had done. Whereas, the team here was like, no, we're going to stick with what we know, and that's good enough.
Then start feeling more concerning the situation. I mean, this is not fixed. You announced the launch date, but it's not fixed. So, but still, some major portion of people are still thinking.
I was actually working at GameStop for the release of A Realm Reborn. And let me tell you something, people coming in to GameStop, picking that up and then having no idea what the fuck they had to do was kind of a problem. Like, they just saw it as a new Final Fantasy game when A Realm Reborn launched. They're like, oh, what is this? It's Final Fantasy. I'm going to pick it up. No one really understood that it was an MMO when they were buying it from me. And I had no idea what the game was about either, so I couldn't warn them. So I had a lot of people come back in trying to return it, but they couldn't because it was like digital download as well. So you couldn't just return the box. Like, you'd already gotten an account with them. So there was just so many people trying to return A Realm Reborn that just were like, I didn't know what this was. I didn't know it was this kind of game. I thought it was new Final Fantasy. It was weird. It was very weird being in like a sales position for a physical disc MMO. It was odd. Sends the email to entire company, connection terminated. No.
Believing, no, it's better, still better. Last phase, but still better. So it could be, fixed or changed at the launch timing.
It kind of went from thinking, okay, this project's going to be great, to, there might be some problems. Can we fix them? Can we fix them? Okay, we can't fix them. Is there anything we can do? I don't know. It was a very taxing experience.
I mean, conceptually, that's kind of terrifying, right? It's like, for everyone outside, it's like watching a train wreck. For Koji and everyone else, it's being in the train wreck with no way to get to the conductor. Like, they are desperately trying what they can do on their side to try to make the train crash at least safe. But they can't change the fact that the train is crashing. It's like out of their hands entirely. That's terrifying. Being a part of that company, seeing the direction it's going, knowing what's going to happen, and being unable to change it. Oof. That's intense.
The team crossed their fingers.
The conductor has locked himself in his cabinet and is like, we're going in this direction, while the rest of the train is screaming at him, don't do it, we're gonna die. On MMOs normally digitally released? Nowadays, yes, Mystic. Back in the days of the dawn of man, you would have to buy mostly physical copies, and you would download them. So, like, for example, here, let me see if I can pull it up. World of Warcraft came in like big old boxes. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Back in the day, you would go to your store and you would see this box where you would go up. Let me see if I can. So you go up to your game counter and you would see this box. Your epic quest begins here. Blizzard Entertainment. And when you get home, you'd open it up and there would be like 6-7 CDs inside of it. CDs nuts. And with that, you would have to download each one individually. But like, please insert next disc. Yep, there we go. There's another example of it right here. It was like a huge fold-out box where you get the CDs out of it, download 5 or 6 of them to the computer, and then you'd create your account. That's how MMOs used to be like. Well, not all of them. Obviously, there was like RuneScape or other browser sources, but like you would actually get physical copies. I still have my Guild Wars 2, Star Trek Online, and Lord of the Rings disc. Terry, you gotta post a picture in the Discord. You have to show that off. I need to see those boxes. We are full of nostalgia right now. Please.
The game entered live operations, and so Final Fantasy XIV Online launched on September 30th, 2010. It sold well its first week, and after a month had over 600,000 players swarming into its world. But it didn't take long for the cracks to appear. The problems in the beta were echoed by new players. The game was sluggish, the servers crashed, and Eorzeans quickly ran out of things to do. Quests were limited, and the fatigue system even made grinding for XP next to impossible. Critics aided life too.
Yes, Annie.
Let's get right down to it. Unless you've got the patience of
Annie.
Job or some kind of masochist, you shouldn't.
GameSpot. Oh, I'm aging before my own eyes. It's like the scene in Indiana Jones where his skull just melts away from the arc. I'm just GameSpot, no.
Play Final Fantasy
Turn me
XIV.
into Iron Man.
Its problems
more
are
like the boy in the bubble, Phaedra. More like the boy in the bubble.
so vast that I could spend hours talking about them. The awful interface, the recycled content, the stringent limits on questing, the useless maps, the stupid market ward, these issues and dozens more constantly have you asking that age-old question, what were they thinking?
Damn.
So, what was it like seeing public reaction?
Yeah, it was very, I mean, very disheartening.
Probably vindicated,
because
though. I mean, yes, it probably hurt so hard to hear this stuff, but it probably felt vindicating too. Like, see, we told you. We were right. It sucks. It sucks so bad that we were right, but we were right. Oh.
You know, you'd want to look at those and you'd want to say, no, they don't understand. They don't know, what's going on here, or but deep down, you'd know they were right. And that was what kind of, that dagger in your heart, and it's twisty because
you're on Brynhild,
you want to
make
defend
a new character.
what you worked on. I mean, the people that I worked with are the greatest people. I mean, I still
we're not a cult.
Work
just
with
make a new
of
character.
Them. I had worked with them before in FF11. I consider them not only coworkers but friends. But and then you see people online, bashing the work they did. And I know how hard they worked. I know how many hours they put.
Yeah, and Crystal's the RP of the world.
And I know that, like, in the last 3 or 4 months, people were basically living at work, all putting their 100%
That's Balmug. You must never go there. All the light touches is yours, son. What about that shadowy area? That's Balmug. Stay the fuck away from Balmug.
It's a game that was, destined to kind of crash and burn, and then to have people online just say, oh, that sucks, this person is a piece of shit, and their work is terrible.
Ooh, Shenpai is really, I love Shenpai.
But it hurts more because if I was not here and was a user and had played that game, I probably would have said the same thing.
Yep. So at the time, I was CFO, but I did notice the biggest difference.
当時はね、私CFO やってたんで、見てたんですけども、ローンチの
Between all the issues that happened around Final Fantasy
やっぱり一番大き
XI
く違ったのは、11の時のいろいろごたごたね。
was versus the original 1.0 Final Fantasy 14 was it despite all the issues
ごたごた一番違うっていうのは11の時はいろいろごたごたあったけどゲー
that
ム
were
に
happening within Final Fantasy 11 the game was still fairly well received
して言うとさすがに相当やっぱり相当程度やっぱり受け入れファン相当のやっぱり評価されたんですよね。
But of course, there were some operational issues surrounding.
オペレーション上のねトラブルとかっていろいろ多分あるっていうのこれ
Final Fantasy 11 and it was kind of expected for those problems to happen.
大変だったんですけれどもそれはあったんですけど
Well, yeah, you're releasing in a different environment. Makes sense.
非常に評価
But the game's content itself was going well received and people were accepting.
けれども前作の場合の一番やっぱ
Well, with Final Fantasy 14, the 1.0 version of it,
まずいなこれって思ったのはやっぱりゲーム自体の評価が非常
what I felt was problematic was that the game itself was not regarded very well.
に厳しいものだったということですね。これはちょっとやっぱり相当大丈夫かなというの
It was actually received very poorly at and after launch. I felt really
ローンチした後ね
I really felt that sort of reaction.
やっぱりそこはね非常にリアルに感じましたね。それはそうです。
So you're not too far from the launch of the old Final Fantasy 14.
ね、ローンチしてしばらく経ってそんなに長い期間じゃなかったですね。そうしばらくなんでやっぱり
There was worry and concern within the company about can we continue doing this?
相当なこのままで大丈夫なのかっていう社内でも相当やっぱ議論ありましたからね。
I mean, the first few months was just an endless.
So this is Terry's box art for their Star Trek Online. Ooh, damn. Ooh, damn. Oh, could be the pin? That's so funny. I love that. Oh, it's signed? That's so cool. Ooh. Yeah, that's how media used to be, man. That's how you used to get it. Physical. Get physical.
Mails from, you know, producers and directors and you know, finding out, trying to figure out different ways of saying we're sorry, because the more you say it, the less weight it has. Mm-hmm. But Japan being a country where, you know, people apologize a lot, that's part of the culture. But then trying to translate that, it's like, okay, this is the 10th time I've said sorry in this one post, and then from, you know, the American myself, it's like, yeah, people are going to look at that as insincere. You know, the more you apologize, the more.
So those physical collector's editions. Oh, like physical CD, or like it's a physical collector's edition that comes with like a code. Because if it comes with a CD, that's kind of badass. Although, chat, this is actually an interesting question. How many of your computers have CD ports still? Because I feel like computers aren't shipped with CD ports anymore. Like, I don't have the ability to download from a CD on this computer. There's nowhere for me to stick it into. I guess I could like jam really hard into a USB port. That might work. I haven't tried it yet. Maybe next time I buy a game, I should get a physical CD and like crush it up and just dust it over the PC fan. See if that works. Chat, I have a question real quick. Who wants to see my dog? Because we haven't showed off the pup yet today on stream, and I think maybe we should get some dog on stream. There's the girl. There's the little bell. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, so chat, you see this nice little bandana she's got on? Isn't it cute? I was going through our clothes and I found one of her old bandanas, so we got her all dressed up for the spring. Yes, we did. Yes, we did, Bell Pup. Bell. Oh. She is so beautiful. Mwah. Puppy break.
Trying to explain that to the team, it's like, no, we have to apologize. It's like, yes, you have to apologize, but and it just became, we weren't talking about the game anymore. We were talking about how to translate apologies, and it seemed like that lasted for, you know, a couple months.
Actually, we see a huge drop. I mean, right after the launch timing, we got good number of the subscribers. Then that fall. I mean, as you can imagine. So I mean, it was failure. And
what are you hawing me for, Neo? What did I even say? Why do I deserve a huh?
Now it's a failure, so we see lots of decline.
As mentioned earlier, the developers were already sort of skeptical, even at the beta. I love how dramatic the music is for this as well. Even the pre-beta phase, there were feelings that the game is very premature. It shouldn't have been released to the world at this state. Yeah. Oops. But before the launch, there was this sort of broad feeling that maybe it will resolve itself. Ooh, that's copium. That's huffing some serious copium. It's like, everything's bad, but maybe it won't be.
Maybe
once it launched, maybe. Sort of like a glimpse of hope. We had nothing to back up this feeling. But we were hoping that it would all work out well once we launched the title. But the magic didn't happen. Once released, our fears did come true. It was not ready to be released to the world. I think everybody already had that worry in their minds, somewhere in the back of their head. And it wasn't difficult for everybody to realize that there is some kind of fundamental issue that we need to resolve.
そんなことはないっていう意見がすご
So it wasn't difficult to convince the other team members that we were running into an issue here.
く強くあって、誰かを説得しなきゃいけないみたいなことは特になかったですね。
Oh, the mute. That's so dramatic. The piano. Can we just talk about the production value of this documentary real quick? This is amazing. The audio design, the framing, the camera work. Whew.
Today, Square Enix is based across multiple floors in a modern office complex in Shinjuku, Tokyo. It's a company that is often designing multiple projects at once. And while Final Fantasy XIV was being developed, in another part of the building, a different game was being made. Produced by a Final Fantasy fan, his name, Naoki Yoshida.
一番最初は
Our Lord and Savior Yoshi P. He has arrived on screen. It's the man. Oh, yes. Yoshi P.
ファミリーコンピューター
First game I've ever... Oops. Sorry, Yoshi.
一番
The first game I have ever played was on the Japanese system. It's called the Family Computer.
最初は
Famicom.
ファミリーコンピューター
Jesus himself has arrived. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you. The American Entertainment System, I believe, is called a Nintendo Entertainment System.
US だとエンターテインメントシステムかのマリオブラザーズ
But the original Mario Brothers was the first I played. We actually we watched a different video of an interview about 16, and we learned that Mario Brothers was the first game he ever played, and it was the uniqueness of the two-player aspect, being able to mess with each other, that was so interesting to him.
最初にプレイしたゲームです。とにかくそのテレビ
Up
の
until
中
now, as a child,
テ
I
レビ
always
っていうの
thought
はそ
TV is
の
something that you look at.
見るものだと思っていた子供の時に。ところ
When
が
I first got a chance to play with Mario Brothers and got
そのマリオ
hold
ブラザーズで初めてそのコントローラーを握ってゲームをプレイした時にまずそもそも
that
テレ
controller in my hand, I wish I was actually playing this at my friend's
ビの
house.
ものを自分が自由に動かせるっていうことがものすごいショック
Being able to move something that's on the TV screen using a controller.
友達の家でプレイさせてもらったんだけどものすごい興奮したの
It was just shocking to me. I will say the first thing that shocked me like this, much smaller shock, was DVDs. Like when you put in a DVD and it loads it up on your TV, and then you're able to like navigate the menus, fast forward, rewind. Because I grew up with a VHS tape. And that, you want to rewind it, you go up to the box and you press the rewind button, and then it takes forever to actually go through the tape. That my first like mind-blowing experience with technology was a DVD player where I was able to like I don't know, click on Shrek with the remote or something, but just the process of being able to like skip, move around the menus, choose what parts of the movie to rewatch. Like, this is embarrassing, chat. This is an embarrassing admission. This is so off topic, but Matrix 2. When I was a kid, my favorite thing to do with my DVD player in my room was to rewatch this fight scene over and over again with like Agent Smith and Neo showing off. I would chapter skip to this part where he starts doing this ridiculous fight. Little me upstairs watching Matrix 2 on my 19-inch CRT TV and just rewinding, watching Neo kick this guy's ass over and over again. It is you, Neo. Man. Goddamn. So that was my first moment of like technological like mind blowing when I was a kid. And of course, another very impactful video game was Dragon Quest.
日本で RPG を大きく広めたタイトルを初めて触った時にアクションではないゲーム、数字のやり取りでこんなにまたさらにゲームが面白くなるんだっていうのを特にストーリーラインがあってっていう
very story driven. That was very impactful for me as well.
また次のカルチャーショックを受けて RPG っていうジャンル
So that kind of prompted me to focus in the RPG genre as well.
にものすごく
Thank God. Thank God it
フォー
did.
カスしていくことになったかなとは思
And of course, the Final Fantasy that came out the following year.
います。当然その翌年に出たファイナルファ
Thank
ン
you,
タジー
Blaze.
でも
I
その
appreciate
映
you.
画的なその
After Dragon Quest took a more cinematic movie-like approach to depicting these
演
pictures.
出ファンタジーをより強く打ち出したっていうところにもすごい衝撃を受けてたので、やっぱり僕の
Those
中で
two
ドラゴン
games, Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, are
クエスト
definitely
とファイナルファンタジーっていうのはすごい大きかったですね、当時。
very memorable games for me.
Like most Japanese players at the time, Yoshida-san played all the early Final Fantasy games. He holds them in high regard, though he still holds the bitter memory of not being able to save before the last dungeon in Final
That's evil.
Fantasy III. But when he was 11 years old, a brand new type of gaming experience arrived at home. His uncle gave him a PC. On this PC, the young gamer learned how to program BASIC. His first video game centered around trying to break into a bank vault. But this PC also exposed him to a spectrum of gaming that eluded most Japanese players. Western role-playing games. He fell in love with games like Diablo and was stunned when he
Love
first
Diablo.
went online and played with other players.
でその翌年にウル
Then
テ
the
ィマオンライ
following
ン
year, one of my seniors had recommended to me Ultima Online.
をベータからプレイし、先輩にとにかく
And I joined in their beta, and so that would have been my first MMO game. Chat, are you at all interested in the concept of me playing other MMOs to try them out? Like the older ones, be like, I tried original EverQuest, or I tried Ultima Online. Is that something that you'd be interested in me trying out occasionally? Not as like main content. Main content would still be Final Fantasy 14, but have like a day like today where we're just yapping. We could try out Ultima Online or something like that.
すげえゲームあるって言われて
Do you want to detour the
ウルティマオンライ
best?
ンをベータか
I
ら
agree
始めた
D2
の
is the
が
best Diablo game.
初めて
I joined in their beta, and so that would have been my first MMO game.
メモをプレイした作
And
品
that,
で
and
や
the
っぱり
third time I
同
received such a huge shock.
じようなその3回目の衝撃
Like
3000
Retro Friday or some such. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's like dedicated day of the week where we just play a retro style game. Doesn't even have to be MMO. It could be like any other like retro game that y'all recommend. I feel like it'd take too long to get past the introductory parts of the game to be worth it. It'd need to be multiple streams per game. Oh, I figure. Yeah, it wouldn't just be like, I play Ultima for one day. It would probably be like, we have a dedicated day of the week. You like, or something like that, where we try a game for, you know, a few weeks, then we transition to a different one. That might be a cool idea.
人が同時に一つの世界
This time is 3,000 people concurrently playing on the same game. That was a big impact to me as well.
で遊
Chrono
ぶ
Trigger, that's a good idea
っていう
too.
のがもうとてつもないまた衝撃でしたね。まあウルティマは
Ultima Online, especially in the early days, felt like a level of freedom was very big.
本当に自由度のウルティマオンラインは特にとにかく初期は自由度がめちゃくちゃ高いゲームだったので、そのいわゆるロードの称
Some
号を
players would have the title of Lord and be very gentlemanly like.
つけたそのなんて言ったらいいんだろうな、すごく紳士的なというか。
A sort of community leader type. Plus, I created a separate, completely evil character. Based Yoshi P.
コミュニティリーダー的プレイをするキャラクターと完全に悪のプレイヤーキラーをやる
That would kill other players. I played a lot as both.
キャラクターを2つ作ってどっちもものすごい遊んでたし、やっぱりその
And so through Ultima Online, I was able to sort of
っていう
study
ゲームがどう作られているのか、
what kind of like other engineering is required for an MMO type game.
どういったエンジニアリ
There's
ン
a
グが
lot of
必
the
要なのか
Black
っていう
Mage,
の
of
も
course. He plays evil characters.
ものすごいそこで勉強させてもらったと思います。もうその頃から
So yeah, around then, I think I was playing games on PC just as much as I was on console.
はコンソールと同じぐらいの比重で PC でゲームをかなり遊ぶようになってたので、自分で PC パーツ買ってきて組み立てたり
And so I also looked into some FPS games and then also 3D MMOs.
してたし、でやっぱり
Bro's just
そのあたり
a
で
gamer.
FPS もかなりプレイし始
Bro
め
is,
てたし、
Yoshi P is just a gamer. That's why he makes such a good game dev. He's a gamer. He plays games. He loves games. He understands games. Oh, man. Video game companies should not be led by business majors. Should not be led by people who don't play video games, you know? Why didn't we love him? Exactly why we love him.
のスタートである
EverQuest was one of them. I just got to tell you, it was very difficult too.
その後プレイをし始めて、当時エヴァクエストのパッケージを日本で手に入れるのが本当に大変で、
Oh, I imagine.
出張で東京に
I would travel to Tokyo on a business trip and I would go to Akihabara.
行った時に秋葉原を
That's so cute. I love that.
ゾンビのように
I was sort of like a zombie trying to find it.
店をこううろうろして。
Moving from store to store asking, do you have EverQuest? Do you have EverQuest?
ってゲームないですか？エヴァクエストってないですかって。
God, man, we love Yoshi P. What a fucking hero. God damn.
Yoshida-san would embark on a career in games that would eventually see him joining Square Enix to work on the Dragon Quest series. Though he wasn't working on the Final Fantasy team, he was part of the umbrella group that was allocating programmers to various projects. He didn't have granular visibility on FF14, but he knew the team was struggling. I asked from his perspective as a producer where he thought the game's problems were coming from.
Maybe at risk of being cut by corporate PR based.
カットされるのかもしれないけど、クリスタルツールズって呼ばれるミドルウェアを全社で。
It would be so funny if they kept the clip in up to that point and then immediately cut the clip. That would have been fantastic. A middleware by the name of Crystal Tools was in the process of being developed company-wide.
作ろうとしていたので、腕のいいプログラマーが全部そのチームに、
A lot of really talented programmers were pulled from.
各なんだろう。ゲームラインから
all different projects and different lines. So many different projects were missing.
されて、そのメインプログラマーがみんないないっていう状態になってしまったので、どのプロジェクトもものすごい大変な時期だった。まあ。
To feel that this is one of the reasons that led to the failure of 1.0 as well.
オリジナルの14がああなった。
Maybe that's the reason they were relying so much on scripts was their programmers were just being taken away from them. So it's like, I guess we'll use scripts.
ってしまった理由の一つでもあるかなとは思いますね。さらに2つ大きな問題がそこに絡まっていて、スクエアエニックス全体にプレイステーション2のジェネレーションで本当に世界一クオリティグラフィックスが
have produced games that were revolutionary with very high graphical quality. Nothing in this world will ever match the awe I felt at the intro cinematic to Final Fantasy X, with the Blitzball arena and Sin coming from the sky. So good. He's in fact a god gamer with God Ping, aka Giga God. He's unlocked all 8 gates and just going full on Super Saiyan. Let's go.
のクオリティが高い、そしてゲームエクスペリエンスがものすごく詰まったゲームっていうのをたくさんリリース。
Quality game experiences also that was regarded as perhaps the top of the line.
本当に
the work environment is insane in both the game industry and the anime movie. Oh, it's terrible. Burnout, the lore, just making you work non-ending days. It's terrible.
こうなんていうんだろう。ある意味自信過剰にもなっていた時期で、自分たちが世界一。
We had that extraneous sort of confidence that we have the world's #1 graphics.
自分たちのグラフィックスこそが世界一。
And only we are able to accomplish that kind of quality.
だし、その作り方はその自分
And I felt that extremely large success had become sort of shackled.
たちにしかできない。だからなんだろう、でも超巨大な成功体験ってやっぱり足かせというかにもなる例だと思うんですけど、ものすごくおごってた。
I think we become very arrogant, very prideful. Isn't it kind of awesome that he's including himself in this? He's saying we here. He doesn't have to say we. He could just be like, yeah, the company was, or they were. No, he's including himself in it too. That's man, he really is Jesus, huh?
まあ悪い言い方をすればおごってた時期だったと思うんですね。まず例えるとその刀を
Back then we had swordsmiths, artisans that make katanas.
刀匠のような職人たちが本当にたくさんいて、彼らが一つずつを手作
We compare them to swordsmiths creating katanas one by hand.
りで作って世界一のクオリティを作り上げていたんだ。
They would create world-class quality, but meanwhile the world is
実は世界はまあ特に
developing technology so that they can cover that sword.
その北米を中心にテクノロジーでそれをカバーするっていうところを
tedious manual labor through technology.
ずっと追求してきた
And so going back to the gaming industry, what is PlayStation 3
の世代になった瞬間に
technology had finally caught up and were able to cover those tedious tasks.
テクノロジーの方がそれを上回るっていう時期が来たせいで
But Square Enix did not change our old methods of creating assets.
作り方を変えようとはしないしだけどテクノロジーも
And then we didn't have the resources to catch up on the technology to cover
追い
for
つ
that
け
as
ない
well.
っていうことからさらにそれを知ってるはずのプログラマーたちは
And then the programmers, we knew that we had an issue that we needed to catch up.
ミドルウェアの制作に行ってるっていう状態ででもグラフィックス
Technology-wise,
作って
we're
る
wrapped up in
その
creating
アーティストたち
middleware.
は自分
And of course, the artists are in that sort of artisan mindset,
たちの作り方こそが世界一だと思ってるので古い作り方
thinking
で
that,
引
oh,
き続
I made the world's best graphics.
きものすごく負荷のかかるや
And
り方で
so it was a very laborious and time-consuming way of creating our assets.
アセットを作ってたのでもうそれらが絡まって
And I believe that is one of the large problems that we had in terms of the original
っていうのが
1.0.
まあもう一つの大きなさっき2つあるって言った
That's
問題
base,
の
Mystic.
一
You
つ
should
目が
keep,
それ
keep
です
yelling it loud and proud.
もう一つはプライド
So the second problem relates to, of course, pride is very important, but with great success.
いついかなる時でもとても大切なものだとは思うんですけどそこに
They
やっぱ
started
り
thinking
超
that
巨大
because they are great, they don't need to look
な
at
成
other
功体
games.
験をしたっていうこと自体が乗っかってきちゃうとその
So say, for example, with an MMORPG, if you ask anybody who knows
自分たちの作るゲー
MMORPGs
ムこ
what
そが
it
ベ
is,
ストであって他をあんまり見る必要がないっていう時期でもあったんじゃないかなと思っていて
the most well-known
例えば
MMORPG that you
当
know
時
has
世界
100 people. I mean,
多分
World of Warcraft.
MMORPG を
Back then, EverQuest, I guess, but like World of Warcraft. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's the most well-known one, but I mean, it was dominant for a reason.
知ってる人に
Yep, World of Warcraft.
世
Sure,
界最大
100
の
of people would say World of
MMORPG は何
Warcraft.
ですかって言ったら100人
But did the staff members play Warcraft? No, none of them were
100
familiar with
人
the
がワール
game.
ド・オブ・ウォークラフトって言ったはずなのに
Back then, WoW was undisputed king. We've thrown open those burning gates. Man, I started playing Warcraft technically at the end of Burning Crusade, where I tried it. Like I played a character that I created on my wife's account when we were 13. I guess girlfriend. But so that was my first ever experience with Warcraft. But I became a Wrath baby. I started playing when Wrath of the Lich King came out. And that was my first I played RuneScape as my first MMO, but that was my first 3D eat your life MMO that I got into.
誰もプレイしてない開発チームが
So I gave that example of World of Warcraft not because I wanted to
これは
talk
ワールド
about whether or
ウォークラ
not
フトを知ってるか知ってないかっていう話だけの話をしてるんじゃなくてその
the developers knew World of Warcraft or not, but I just wanted to point
Actually,
out
世の中に対して新しいそのビデオゲームをリリースし
that
よう
we
と
need
す
to
る
look
とき
at what
にライバ
would
ルに
be
な
our
るタイ
rival and what users are experiencing.
プユー
We
ザー
need to
は
look at
今
we need to look at what would be our rival and what
プレイヤー
users are
はどこに
experiencing
そのゲームエクス
in
ペリエン
terms
ス
of
を
latest gameplay
最大
experience.
最新の状態をプレイしてるん
And I felt it was very unbelievable that no one was doing the research for titles.
だろうっていうのを知らないっていうのがその感覚として僕には結構信じられないなんでもっとみんなゲームプレイしないの
Outside of your own, because you won't know where you are unless you look at other games.
だって自分たちが今どの辺りにいるか分かんなくなっちゃうよっていうのがまあ
Final Fantasy XI, of course, there was great success on that title
言
as
いたい
well.
で特に14の場合に関してはもちろんファイナルファンタジー
But that was actually based on a lot of the developers looking at EverQuest.
11の超巨大な成功体験っていうのが邪魔をしたっていうのもあるとは思うんだけど
And they thoroughly looked at it and studied it and played it.
あの当時はエヴァークエストを徹底的にプレイをしてだからこ
That
そ
sort of knowledge in order to make 11 such a
11
great
を作っ
game.
たはずなのに新しいレストランを
It's like if you're trying to open a new restaurant when you go in and you do absolutely no research
オープンするときに隣にあるレストランがどんなメニューを出していて
on the surrounding competitors and open up a new restaurant, right?
どんなサービスをしてるかを知らずにレストラン開店させる人はいないんじゃないって
So just at the launch stage then of 1.0.
I've heard about Bethesda being a bad studio. I feel like most big studios nowadays are kind of just bad studios. Like the gaming space and the crunch and the way they work their employees and the non-compete agreements, which were just, beautifully rescinded. The video game industry is incredibly predatory.
In Square Enix, the beta was quite close to launch. Were people anticipating that there would be negative feedback, or were they less aware that that was going to happen, I guess?
僕は他のチームにいて、
I was on a different team, of course, but I was reading up on the internet.
すごくベータの評判が悪いっていうのはネットでニュ
The
ース
response to the beta was poor. And I mean, at the time, of course.
ただ多かれ少なかれ
Whenever an MMO launches, I know the internet gets up in
MMORPG のローン
arms.
チは絶対に荒れやすい。そうサーバーがすぐ落ち
They
る。
try to complain about it. I mean, yeah, there's always like that first couple days of bitching. And then after those first couple days, when the dust settles, that's when you can kind of get more decent, introspective comments about the game rather than just, I don't like it, you know?
とか、テスト、ストレステストをやってる
The development team does do server stress
け
tests.
ど、プレイヤーの方は遊びたいから、
But
や
of
っぱ
course,
り
the player wants to play it as soon as they can.
サーバーが落ちるとやっぱりすごく文句を言って当然だと思いますし、
So, of course, it is anticipated that server crashes and things like
だから
that.
僕もやっぱり11を作った
So, I mean, I wasn't involved in the team, so I was looking at it from the
Teamだから
outside perspective.
そうは言っても11のやっぱり完成度が高いので
But I was thinking that because it is the same team
そ
who
こを
worked
比
on
較をし
11,
てあの機能がないこの機能がない
so I thought it was just the consumers comparing to the high level of completion of Final Fantasy XI.
っていう話をしてるのかなっていうふうに思ってた。僕は僕自身の開発が
And so I thought eventually that this sort of animosity would die
忙しかった
down.
のもあってただ
You
それ
can
も
be the physical comedy as a bubble.
少しずつ収まっていくんだろうなっていうふうに僕は当時は
Just
見て
roll
た。
around, stream like a
た
hamster.
だ別の
But coming from an insider perspective, there were
過去の
apparently a
今度は
number of people.
オリジナルの14チームの中のその視点としてはこのままだと本当にまず
Within
い
the original development team that thought if we continued moving
もっと時間
forward,
をかけて品質を上げないとっていうもちろん声を上げる人たちもいたけれど
this, we were in a very bad situation. The company, Square Enix, had turned around and
ま
told
あ
those people
全
that,
体の判断としてはファイナルファンタジー11のスタートも
well, that's how it was for Final Fantasy XI's
そうだったと
launch.
機能たくさんなかったしものすご
We
く
had missing functions that were a lot of negative
ネガティブな
feedback,
フィードバックもたくさん来たけどパッチでどんどん直していって
but we're able to patch it up and fix it.
11は完成したんだから14も大
The company decided to conclude the beta phase and then go into launch.
丈夫だと最初は絶対こうなんだっていうふうに判断したのでベータを
This is information that I found out when I talked with and
終わら
interviewed
せてリリースへ踏み切ったっていうのが当時
some of the development staff members after I had joined the project.
のジャッジだったって僕はチームに入ってからインタビューをしてそれを確認したの
But yeah, there were indeed people within the development team
チームの中ではやっぱり議論はあったそ
that did raise their voice that it was, we were in a very
う
bad
ですあのままじ
situation.
ゃダメまずいっていう話はただ最終的なジャッジ
But the company had ultimately
は
decided to move
今お
forward
話しした
anyway.
通り11の時もそうだったでも11だってずっとパッチを続けてああなったじゃないかと
Eventually, corporate realized that this wasn't usual launch problems, so they called on a few select members of the team to create a task force. This task force would research what changes the game needed and the resources the development environment would require to do the work. Members of that team would talk to Yoshida-san about their worries after hours. His thoughts were that the current organizational structure would need to be modified if the team was going to make the changes required. In October of 2010, Yoshida-san talked to the then Square Enix president Yoichi Wada and suggested they initiate a company-wide emergency to get the team the resources they needed. Wada-san spent a few days talking to the 14 development team about their concerns, and while a lot of the team had suggested that the current task force was in fact up to the task, some members of the 14 team had pleaded to have Yoshida-san join the project to help. And
So based. The people who are sitting their heads in the sand like, no, we got this. But the ones who are like, hey, we understand we need help. We're in over our heads. Yoshi P, save us. Yoshi P, lend us your power.
And so it transpired that in late November, corporate took the decision to remove Hiromichi Tanaka from the team and move Nobuaki Komodo from director to lead designer. Both of their vacant positions would be filled by Yoshida-san.
Both. Both of the positions. Did you hear that, chat? Yoshida came in to save this game and is filling both of the lead positions himself.
At that time, he was leading a team that was working on an original IP for Square Enix. He was disappointed to leave that team, but excited for the opportunity to work on one of the company's crown jewels, a numbered Final Fantasy game. So, he got right to work.
So I believe there were 3 major points I had to accomplish with this. Sort of transition. Of course, the first being the top level we're going to be. Swapped out from the original team, and then our task force that was said was going to be sort of like the lead. There would be a core team that was involved with the development. And because I was on the Dragon Quest side, I did not know these people on the development team.
というか、まあ顔と名前ぐらいは知ってるスタッフはいたけど、その一緒に仕事したことがある。
Of course, some of them I knew their names and faces.
ほとんどいなかったので。
But I had not had a chance to work with those people, so it was literally just saying hello.
Say hello っていうところから。
Hello. Hello. I'm here to absolutely revolutionize the industry. Hello. Nice to meet you. That was kind of like my beginning, and I told them that because
みんな仕事したことがないから。どんな仕事を
I not work with you, so if you don't like what I do in my job,
人間なのかを見てくれればいいよってまずで、あ、こいつダメだと思ったら
You're more than welcome to leave the team. God damn, fucking Yoshi P over here like comes in, waves hello, and then just goes, "You don't like how I run this shit? You can leave." God damn. One day he will find someone to take one of his 2 titles. I doubt it. I doubt it.
チームを抜けて構わないからっていう話を
Please give me about 3 months to work together to see what we are like.
して一緒に仕事して
If you're like me, fuck off. I think it's better than that. I think it's high. I'm gonna change everything here, and if you can't keep up with it, then you can leave. I think that's what he's saying. Is like I'm about to fuck this whole shit up, and if you can't be here with me while I do it, then you can leave. He's so cool.
1回はいいよねって。で、それでダメだと思ったらすぐ抜けて構わない。
What you were like, what I'm like, and that's the kind of talk I delivered during my speech.
3ヶ月ぐらいまず一緒にやろうよっていう話を僕スピーチでした記憶があります。で、まあ
I did mention to them that we were going to take this challenge on one more time.
もう1回チャレンジするよ。まあ当然その時その
At the time, we didn't have any plans of A Realm Reborn just yet.
申請するなんて話はまだ計画がなかったので。
But I did communicate that we're not going to give up on this project.
とにかく立て直しをやるよと、ギブアップはしないよっていう話をした時に。
We're still going to push through. Like, oh yes, I'm going to go and do this.
何人かはよしやるぞっていう人たちと。
And some people reacted, "This is impossible. You're putting too much on us."
もういい、もう無理だよっていう人たちと。
Imagine the work hours. Oh, it's terrible. Koji and Soken in the background cheering Yoshi P. Koji and Soken are the bedrock that Yoshi P is able to stand on. Obviously, there's more. There's way more people that are like fantastic, but like those in the background that like the writers that are just pillars of the community, and oh god, they have such a strong foundation for Yoshi to lead from. It's so beautiful.
なんだよこの
Or some people just got frustrated because they did not like what was going on.
体制変更って言ってまあ怒ってる雰囲気の人たちとっていう
So I think that was the kind of general reaction.
大体のその時の雰囲気でしたね。まあそんな中で
There's a team member of the 14 sounding that even now Masayoshi Soken, the fucking GOAT, which I'm directly reading these subtitles here. It calls him the fucking GOAT. I don't care what it says on screen. I'm reading it.
今も14のサウンドディレクターやってるソケンがまあその話を
してる was there when I did the speech in a large hall to the development
大きなホールだったんですけど2階のサウンドブースで僕のマイクの調整とかやって
Also was in charge of adjusting my microphone there.
くれてて
That's cute.
そのソケンがあいつだけですよやり直
When I
す
delivered that speech, he was the only one I can still clearly remember.
リベンジするぞって言ったらガッツポーズしてたの
He was like, yes, I'm gonna do it. I will say Soken's work ethic along with Yoshi's is incredibly unhealthy, but incredibly beautiful at the same time.
今でも覚えてますよ。2階席でおっしゃーってやってたんで、あいつ。
I saw both reactions. I saw the, oh my God, we just went through a year of hell, and now he's asking us to go through a year and a half of hell.
The passion they have for the job is so good. 100%. Their passion is incredible. The things they do to themselves in name of that passion is not healthy. But I can respect them for doing it. Soken's like, hey, Yoshi P, I have cancer, but I want you to keep it secret. I'm going to keep working for the hospital. Yeah, exactly. That's the concept I'm talking about. It's like working on their passion to the point of the brink, to the edge even.
That might, be another failure because, no one had taken a game and rebuilt it in this manner before. So basically saying like, yeah, you just have to trust me. And,
oh, you did? Okay, good,
Sven. Waste another...
Nice play. Hey, Terry, you got it.
Year and a half of your life, and it could be a failure, and, but you're going to have to believe me on this one. And so, yeah, a lot of people are like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know. And I can understand that because, again, it was a gamble. But then on the other hand, there were, a lot of us, myself included, but a lot of people on the team that were like, no,
Rebanak Germafencer. What is that name? Hi, I'm Rebanak Germafencer. Nice to meet you.
We worked so hard on this, and we did our jobs the best that we could, but for a lot of, reasons, some circumstances that were out of our control, decisions made by higher ups, decisions made by other teams that, affected our work, and nothing that we could do about it. But we had put our all into it, and we were invested in the project. We still believed in the project. To have someone on the outside come in, and not just come in to say,
he's
okay,
everywhere.
Forget it, we're just going to do it my way or the highway. He's like, he asked our opinions. He laid out a roadmap. He gave us a vision and a hope. And even though it seemed like it would be difficult to achieve, it didn't seem inconceivable.
Yoshi P knew there was no time to wait.
And that's the most beautiful thing about Yoshi P, is that he leads by example. He doesn't tell you to do shit that he wouldn't do. Yoshi P is the hardest worker. And he leads by example and leads by skill. He's not just a desk jockey telling you to do shit. He's in the trenches with you. And that's why I think he's so respected as well.
He worked with corporate to make sure the team had time off, both for them to relax, but also to give him time to build his new vision, to do research playing other MMOs, and to help draft his plan, to deliver the vision and how the team was going to do it. They had very little time to fix this game, so once they started, the specifications document would have to be watertight, and as captain of the ship, he needed to be able to answer every question the team may have. Quickly.
Yoshida-san.
Yoshi P is a leader. He doesn't just have the title, he is the title. Well put, Roxy. You get an A+ from your English teacher today.
He was now at the helm of his first Final Fantasy, and as an avid MMO fan, he was looking forward to getting in there and fixing it. What he couldn't have known at this stage was the scale of the job ahead of him, that no matter how much they patched Final Fantasy XIV Online, they couldn't ever fix it. What they'd have to do was something that no developer had ever done, to rebuild an entire MMO while the original version was still running.
I don't think that they realized immediately that it was something that couldn't be solved via patches. I think they still believe that, if we patch it, it'll be fine. And it wasn't until...
Can we just all agree that Koji has, like, this beautiful voice? I don't know how to describe it, but his voice is very calming. Like, if he read me a good night story, I could probably fall asleep to it. You know what I'm saying, chat? Some of y'all get me.
They reevaluated and then brought in, the new blood. Yoshida-san came in and told him, okay, yeah, this is not something that can be patched. If we want to fix this, we're going to have to take a drastic step.
Yoshida spent 7 weeks researching and returned with 2 options for corporate. It was then he realized that it would be impossible to convert the current game into an MMO.
Humor? Really?
That could last the test of time. Ultimately, though, this was a decision that corporate had to make. So he returned with not 1, but 2 plans. Plan A and Plan B. During this meeting, he explained that plan A would be to patch the game and make it more playable, but that ultimately the game would never really satisfy players, and though Square Enix may make their money back, the damage to the online brand would be catastrophic. And then there was plan B.
Plan B was aptly patches to the current... Plan B was to apply patches to the current version of 14, but alongside that...
パッチを当ててそのできる限りポジティブに遊べるものにしながら裏で
In the background, we would build a completely new Final Fantasy 14.
もう一度作り直すっていうのがプラン B でまあその話だけを聞くと
Of course, just listening to those two options, Corbett would have been like
まあそんなバカなってなるので当然どうやってそれを達成するか
What are you talking about? Trying to divide up your team?
チームを2つに分けてでどういったその
I told them also because we had promised our fans we would release a
マネジメントスタイル
PS3
でそれを
version.
やるのかで大体発売時期はプレイステーション3版をリリースするっていうのが
We would need to launch this within the life cycle of the PS3.
プレイヤーとの約束だったのでプレイステーション
He's the guy responsible for all the puns in Fate and Quest names. I love the puns. The puns are some of the best part of translation. And the references too. There's so many references to like literary works outside of the game. I love it.
3の寿命が来る前にリリース
So
し
we
な
want
き
to
ゃ
get
いけ
the
ない
game
の
out, if not by the end of 2012, then sometime within
2012
2013.
年年末から2013年中には絶対リリースできるこの
Of course, there was a very high risk, and we've never done it before in the games
計画
industry.
であればっていうプレゼンテーションをしてリスクは高いただ当然そ
On
んな
top of that, we're releasing it under the same title.
ことをしたことはない
Didn't have the power to carry the game? Oh, definitely not.
しかも
I
同
mean,
じ
that's
タ
what
イ
we're
トル
running into with PS4 right now. Aren't they retiring the PS4 version of Final Fantasy 14 soon? I keep hearing that they're going to retire it.
それで作り直してるから成功うまくいったとしても
But
成
I think
功す
at
る
least by taking on this challenge, we'd get
ただ少なくともやっぱりファイナルファン
fans to realize that Final Fantasy is doing something crazy again.
タジーってクレイジーだねとかすごいことするねと
Something
か
really great.
少なくとも自分
And they will see our effort in trying to regain their
た
trust
ちがミスしたことを認めて
and trying to make good on the damage we had caused to the franchise.
信頼を取り戻そうとしたっていう努力は
So
見てくれ
that was my presentation to
くれてる
corporate.
人は多分見てくれるだろうだからどっちをチ
I was going to leave it up to them to decide on option A or option B.
ョイスするかは会社に任せるただどっちであっても全力でやるよっていう話をプレゼンテーションして
Of course, as you may already be aware, corporate did choose option B, and here we are today.
まあ結果的にはねプラン B でって言ってくれたんで今こうなってますけど
Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was in a state of disarray. Square Enix had decided to suspend subscriptions to help ease the negativity around the game, while the PS3 version was indefinitely postponed. For the next 2 years, Yoshida-san and his team would work tirelessly on not one, but 2 MMOs, patching the original 1.0 to fans' expectations, while secretly working on a brand new version of Final Fantasy XIV. In our next episode, we focus on that 2-year period and tell the incredible story of the falling moon of Dalamud, the death of 1.0, and the birth of a new Eorzea.
It was funded by 4,399 patrons. Is this just the credits? There we go. That was part 1 of the No Clip documentary. That was I'll let this play in the background while I talk. That was absolutely fantastic. Holy I mean, we're gonna keep watching it, but not on this stream. We're getting about to the point where I need to log off, but that was amazing. Thank you guys for recommending this to me. I'm actually kind of dying to watch the next part, but that's gonna have to be tomorrow. It's gonna have to be on tomorrow's stream. We'll watch part 2. Oh, the production value of this, the editing, the interviews, the questions they asked. This was amazing. I want to say thank you all for watching today. I had a lot of fun being back. I missed you all a lot. I'm sorry I was gone for a couple days, but you know, surgery. Playing, sir, I was told that after 3 days, I should have normal functionality of my arm and my hand and just not to overdo it. So if I do something very light, like gathering and crafting, it should be fine. The only rough treatment to you during the stream was by you to you. Roxy, just because it's true doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Thank you for coming, though. I love you all bunches. I will see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to give one last thank you to everyone who subscribed today. Thank you for the resubscriptions. Thank you for the bits. Thank you for just being here. And I'm going to see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye. Mwah. Kisses. Bye. Bye.